Sarah Christie is a melanoma survivor. Recently, Sarah has had another mole removed. For most of us, the wait for results would be hard.
Hello? Speaking.
For Sarah, with a previous history and a young family, it's nerve-wracking.
When I was first diagnosed, I sort of subconsciously, I think, rushed through my life. Like, I got married pretty quick soon after and had 2 children. I think somewhere in my subconscious felt the need to, marry Matt and have children, like almost like in a, I don't know so much in a rush, but have them fairly.
I think you sort of wanted to make the most of things fairly much, didn't you? Because you felt that, I don't know really, maybe you felt that your days weren't necessarily numbered, but you needed to maximise every opportunity that arrived.
The mole Doc Mayhew removed from Sarah is being analysed at Auckland's Diagnostic Medlab. And it's a measure of the dangers in this country that the staff here are only too familiar with melanomas.
It's certainly the New Zealand skin cancer, and being the largest laboratory in New Zealand, we probably see more melanomas than anywhere else in New Zealand and possibly anywhere else in the world. So we have a lot of experience with them.
Pathologist Paul Restel sees up to 2,000 moles a week. But before they come to his microscope, there's a painstaking preparation process.
The sample was first given an accession number and logged into the laboratory computer with the name so that we can keep track of it right through the whole process. It's then measured and described. We then take transverse slices usually through the whole pigmented lesion, what's called bread slicing. So we get a cross-section of the pigmented lesion, which we then embed in paraffin after putting it through a process, and we then slice that embedded tissue in the paraffin very finely on a microtome, so we get 4 or 5 micron thick sections, which are then stained in that automatic stainer with hematoxylin and eosin, which stains the detail of the cells in that very thin section, so we can then look at those closely under the microscope. At that stage, the slide is then given to me, and I look at it under the microscope and assess various features of the melanocytic lesion to decide whether it's benign or malignant.
Today, as she waits for her results, Sarah's more conscious than ever of the steps we all need to take to protect against melanoma.
You can never be too careful. If in doubt, just get anything taken off, and I'm very, very careful with my own children and looking out for them and the son, and really careful.
With melanoma now the most common cause of cancer in 20-somethings, the Cancer Society is desperate to get the message of protection across. If we insist on being out in the heat of the day without protective clothing, then sunscreen is a must.
We suggest using 30 plus, that's the best protection that you can get. We suggest that you apply it about 15 minutes before you go outside, and even put on a second coat if you're going out into those really high-risk times.
It's a warning echoed by the medical experts. Melanoma specialist Professor Jim Shaw has performed more operations than he can remember on malignant cancers, and he'd prefer to be doing less.
I think with the really tough sun that we've got here, with a problem with the ozone layer, a lot of us being fair-skinned people of Anglo-Saxon stock, you just can't allow yourself to be out in the sun in the middle of the day with no protection. As a general rule, physical protection is better than chemical, i.e. having clothing on that stops you getting burnt because the sun just can't get through it. I think if you're living in the melanoma capital of the world and you're a child at school and it's summer, having a hat on at school is a smart idea.
And hand in hand with protection goes the notion of detection.
The first thing is, if you've got a previous history of melanoma or a family history of melanoma, your risk of developing the problem is higher, probably doubled. So that's one factor we take into account. The melanoma has many guises, and it's not always just a jet black lesion that's changed rapidly. They can be lots of different colours, and they can be quite subtle. So we're pretty suspicious about lots of lesions. The key points are anything that's changing, we don't like it. And if a lesion's changing over a day or two, it's probably an infection. If it's changing over a year or two, it's probably just some low-key age-related problem. But for a skin lesion that's changing over a few weeks or a month or two, that's the sort of thing we're most concerned about.
But while Sarah is still waiting to hear whether the mole John removed is benign or malignant, the health hazard team aren't sure that she's completely aware of the risks she runs with her training.
You know, if she's going to go for a run, she's got to go out of hours, because you can't cover everything. There's reflection sun, there's the whole lot, running by the sea. So Sarah's got to make her lifestyle outside of 10 to 4 for outdoor activities, or else she really protects herself.